Thursday the 20th of August. Water's looking quite deep actually, or, you know, deeper than what it often is. I feel potential here. Feet getting wet. My boots. I just let Willow out the boot of the car, and all of a sudden I heard this voice, and there was this woman who was really, you know, in a very anxious voice, "Can you get your dog away from my dog, please, please?" Like, you know, I'm probably doing. The voice wasn't quite like that, but you know, when you sort of hear it in your head as well, and it was all very, you know, very worried, very anxious. Anyway, I sort of called her away, and then she was going, and then her dog was on the, I noticed, was on the lead, and she said, "Oh, my dog's very anxious." I've got various feelings about this. I appreciate, you know, everyone's got their own challenges with their dog, but I think if you're going to respond in an anxious way, there's a high probability you're going to increase the anxiety of the dog anyway. So that's sort of first thought. But secondly, something for me, and it is an opinion obviously, it's not a fact, but so my opinion is, well, if you're bringing your dog, even if it's on a lead, to a park at a certain point, at a certain time where you know there's going to be lots of people with their dogs, you know that there are going to be lots of dogs off the leads, then for me there's an element of, well, you made a choice about bringing your dog to that environment. And of course, yes, everyone has a choice to take their dog where they want in that respect. But there is also, for me, an element of, if you're going to make a choice to do that, then take some responsibility for the fact that you know there's a high possibility that you're going to have other dogs who aren't on leads come up to your dog. So for me, it's like, well, take some responsibility for the choices you make. If that was the case, I'd perhaps consider the impacts of that and maybe consider a different option. Another analogy that came to mind, not that very different in some ways, but you know, this is what came into my head anyway. As I was walking along, I was thinking about this just, and I thought to myself, for me, I likened it to somebody who is in recovery, and let's say they're an alcoholic and they're in recovery. They go to a pub, and then when you know, somebody's near them with an alcoholic drink, for example, they turn around and say, "Please, can you, you know, get that drink away from me?" Because obviously it may trigger them or have an impact on them. It may, you know, make them feel they want a drink. And it's like, well, actually, you made a choice to go into that place. So, you know, consider that there may be a potential impact and consequences. So you may want to make a different choice to reduce, you know, the impact and the risk of that happening. In a similar way, I remember when, not that long ago, I was in a big shopping, you know, food store, and it was about, I don't know, 10 on a Saturday morning. So most people would probably have a sense that may still be getting relatively busy-ish at that sort of time. and went into queue, and I had this guy behind me, really sort of huffing and puffing, and he was obviously this way. He was basically not impressed that he had to wait, and I remember him making some comment. I can't remember what the comment was now, but he was not happy that, certainly because I was in front of him, not happy that I appeared to be taking longer than what he would have liked. And I remember we got into the till, and the woman who was serving, you could see that she had clocked this. And we were having that conversation, and she actually said something quite similar. If that's how you're feeling and you really want to speed up your shopping experience, then maybe consider doing your shopping at a different time. That's sort of my thought process at the moment. It's like, I think there needs to be an element of, think through the potential impact of where you're going, the places you're going to, and if you know that there are potential challenges for you, no matter whatever they are, then in what ways can you reduce the risk? And I think it's comes back to that piece about what does it mean to take level of responsibility, as opposed to, well, actually I'm entitled to be here, I can do what I want, it's you're the problem, or your dog's the problem, or something else is the problem, so sort of keep it away from me or have a go. And I'm like, well, would have been easier all round for everybody concerned to have taken some level of responsibility for your action and actually potentially take a different action. Well, for a minute then it reminded me of what came to my head then as well. I've done this a lot on, say, the when I was particularly looking at anger management or the assertiveness courses, and those ones in particular we talk about rights, but the piece that we also really unpick and cover and explore in some detail is it's not just about having rights per se. With the right actually comes responsibility, and I think that's often the wrong turn, is that people may say, and it's very typical things, like I have the right to express myself, I have the right to my opinion, I have the right to do what I want as long as it doesn't really harm anybody, have the right to change my mind or the right to make mistakes. There's so many different things you can consider in terms of rights, but if you don't have the reflection, the discussion around, what are the responsibilities that come along with that, then what can happen is that people just feel that they can do and say what they want and not have to consider the impact or not have to, consider the potential consequences. So, I have a right to, for example, I don't know, express my opinion or tell somebody if I feel that I don't like something they've said or what they've said or the tone of voice they've used. But equally, I have a responsibility to communicate that in an assertive, calm way that isn't derogatory, that isn't about demeaning somebody or making somebody feel, smaller than. It doesn't mean also that I have the right to take somebody else's right away. It's about, all parties, as much as possible, being able to communicate what they think, what they feel. So, yeah. So I was just thinking then actually that I suppose there's sometimes I think we make up that we have, when my head went then, we make up we have rights, and yet they may not be rights. They might again actually be opinions. And I think when that also gets mixed up, I think that can also create difficult discussions and conflict. There's what they call human rights, if you like, constitutional rights. But I think sometimes when people say have a right to, it may not be. It may be an opinion. So I think next time we as in all of us, next time you hear yourself saying, I have a right to, I'd actually question that as well. And I'm talking about myself. And question, is it actually a right? Or is it an opinion? Doesn't mean it's not valid if it's an opinion. It just means that it's, there's more. So it's an opinion. He is a perspective. So it's other people may have different opinions, different perspectives. think as well we can be very sort of, as human beings, obviously we get caught up in, we think what we feel with relationships with others and how invested you are in particular relationships. Often, come from a place of wanting the best for somebody. But that can sometimes mean that you can end up coming across in quite a forceful way about what you think and feel a person should and shouldn't be doing. And at the end of the day, I think it's natural to want to do that, especially I think when you feel for people, or if you can see that perhaps the course of action doesn't, in your opinion, bode well. But I think the most important thing is to focus on each of us taking, personal responsibility for ourselves and our own actions. Come on, Will. Willow, this way. And rather than sometimes focusing perhaps a bit too much on what we think other people should or shouldn't be doing. I often say, should we do the courses with groups of people? I think there's various rules, guidelines, perhaps it's a slightly easier word, that can enable people to have a good learning experience and to be open to learning, listening to each other. One of the things I always say is you're not here to force your opinion on other people, because everybody's got their own lived story, they've got their own narrative, they've got their own personal experience, and nobody else has lived that in the same way. You're here to focus on your own learning. Willow! If you focus on your own learning as opposed to other people's, what you think of other people's stories, and often that can lead to sometimes people making judgments as well. So I think the piece there is always about the learning. What am I here to learn? What can I learn from each given moment, each given experience, each given interaction that I have? What is there to be learnt from it? And I've always said that, learning's a massive value of mine anyway, always has been, and I think if you have a mentality of you learn till the day you die, then I think that's a good, what would you call it? Call it a value, call it a philosophy or a perspective, a state of mind. But I think it keeps you open, as opposed to closing your thoughts and your mind down, or equally making up what you think you know about people as well.